And I want to thank Joel Branscombe and Randy Leach for appearing in support of this situation with regard to this legislation. And Randy, of course, is the Commonwealth's attorney in Roanoke County, and Joel is the Commonwealth's attorney in Botetourt County. I've spoken with Mr. Caldwell, the Commonwealth's attorney in Roanoke City, and he is unable to be here today, but supports the legislation. The United States Supreme Court decided the Melendez-Diaz versus Massachusetts case. That was particularly significant because the issue in that case was a procedure whereby reports from the forensic laboratories of Massachusetts were being introduced into evidence to establish material elements in cases like rape cases, drug cases, and DUI cases in particular. The special session of the General Assembly is being convened to deal with this legislation in particular. If this legislation is not passed, it's going to seriously hinder the Commonwealth's attorneys and law enforcement across the state, but maybe more significantly, the citizens and the public safety of the citizens is going to be severely impacted. This is a perfect example of what has to happen when there's a serious issue of public safety at hand in the Commonwealth, and that is people need to get together. They need to gather the appropriate information that's necessary to assess a problem as significant as the constitutional issue that we have before us now, and legislation must be passed. So I want to urge the General Assembly to pass this legislation that the Commonwealth's attorneys and law enforcement can effectively do their jobs, being able to make a decision, being able to assess the facts, being able to coordinate with individuals who have the information, being able to apply that information to legislation and make a decision and not mess around. And that is a characteristic that's going to be required of the next delegate in the 17th District. In my experience as a prosecutor, a defense attorney, and a substitute judge, all of those things have made me feel at home in this environment, in this type of climate, and I can assure you that if elected in November, I will be that kind of delegate. There's going to be a lot of argument because there's been, as I understand it, so much discussion in preparing the drafts at this point. There were some things that needed tweaking, and as Mr. Branscombe said, there are going to be some issues that are going to have to be dealt with in January. But for right now, it's my understanding that this should not face a lot of opposition, and that's one of the things that I do applaud, because they were able to, the General Assembly appears to, get people on both sides of the table together and come up with a solution that takes care of the public in an appropriate way, and that's why we're here in support of it.
There's more lawyers in the General Assembly than any other profession down there. Based on issues like this, do you think there need to be more lawyers in the General Assembly?
Well, I think I would say it this way. I think that clearly in situations like this one, having lawyers deal with the issues and drafting the legislation is absolutely critical. Now, I know some folks have strong feelings about lawyers being down there and they have some concerns, but this is a perfect example of why having legal experience and background will clearly affect in a positive way the safety of the citizens of the Commonwealth, and I think that's imperative.